I said to the congressman, I didn't know he could preach like that.
Kamala la la la. Oh my God. Kamala Harris is like the Titanic, okay? We just watching her sinking and it will go on to on election day, okay? I'm pretty sure. I'm just watching it all happen. Oh, who with common sense? You know, we got Lizzo, we got all these celebrities coming out to support Kamala Harris. And did you notice that all of them have private jets? The reason why we bringing a private jet is because, you know, your whole Diddy thing. Anyhow, let's bring us back up to speed. So Fox shared this video today, and I wanted to watch it with you guys. It says, the Democrats are breaking up with Kamala Harris and flirting with Trump, GOP strategist says. Now, we know our country is going insane, so let's go ahead and add some sanity to it.
Meantime, the election countdown is on, and a number of down-ballot candidates appear to be dodging the vice president. Some vulnerable members of her party are even drawing connections with former President Trump in some new ads. Let's bring in Pete Seat. He is a GOP strategist. Pete, they say politics makes strange bedfellows, and that's happening in places like Pennsylvania, where Bob Casey, the Democrat Senate candidate, is tying himself to Donald Trump.
Yeah, Bob Casey is doing it in Pennsylvania. Sherrod Brown is doing it in Ohio. Tammy Baldwin is doing it in Wisconsin. Two of those, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, obviously critically important states to both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in getting to 270 electoral college votes. But what's so interesting to me about this is the issues that they're focused on in these ads. Bob Casey is talking about trade, Tammy Baldwin about Made in America, Sherrod Brown about immigration and the border. They could run ads on just the issues themselves, but instead they decide to invoke Donald Trump, use images of Donald Trump in these ads. They are breaking up with Kamala Harris and flirting with Donald Trump because their political prospects depend on it.
So in a state like Pennsylvania, where Trump seems to be edging out Kamala Harris, I don't know if you want to call it easily, but he seems to have the lead there. A guy like Bob Casey figures it's not going to hurt him to tie himself to Donald Trump?
Well, if he's looking at internal polls that show that Donald Trump is starting to get a healthy lead in that state and Kamala Harris is starting to fall behind, yeah, he is going to put himself first and forget about Kamala Harris. Think back to
I mean, if everybody put themselves first, this forgetting about Kamala Harris would be a thing of the past. I'm telling you, she will be a memory, but it ain't gonna happen.
To June and July, right after the first presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, when a lot of Senate Democrat incumbents, Sherrod Brown being one, John Tester in Montana being another, started to distance themselves from Joe Biden. They did not want him to weigh down their chances at re-election. What happened? Joe Biden ended up dropping out of that race. Here we are now, a fortnight and a couple days away from Election Day, and vulnerable Senate Democrats are starting to do the same with Kamala Harris. What does that portend for her campaign? Nothing good.
Yeah, well, what about the coattails of Kamala Harris, though? I mean, you know, it would seem that a sitting vice president would have some.
Yeah, right.
You would think so. But I think it's clear that Donald Trump has coattails and Kamala Harris does not. Look, this has never been about Kamala Harris since she has been the Democratic Party nominee. This is all about Kamala Harris not being Joe Biden and not being Donald Trump. That is what her campaign is based on. That is the foundation of her effort.
And that's not going to work. We're going to need more than that, okay? Because maybe to the independent, low vibrational voters, right? The people whom are like, you know, undecided. But that's just not going to work. You sitting there, you know, playing the middle. It's like, oh, I'm not Joe Biden and I'm not Trump, but we know you work closely with Joe Biden and you've admitted that you were, you know, one of the in many cases, the deciding factor in a lot of decisions that were being made from Joe Biden. So, yeah, you know, I get you trying to play in the middle, but no, you can't. You're literally the cause of where we are now. Like, come on, you will campaign better just by keeping it real.
Watch the interview with Bret Baier just a couple of nights ago.
Oh, he crushed her. Oh, my God. I love Bret Baier for what he did. Asked her all the right questions. She was just, I could not stop yelling.
On this very network, she couldn't even talk about what her own policy stances were because she doesn't have any. She doesn't actually have a vision for the future. All she had was attacks and negativity towards the former president, because that's her entire campaign is, I'm not Donald Trump.
So let's go back to Pennsylvania. And I just find this fascinating because, an incumbent Democratic senator from Pennsylvania is invoking and even using Donald Trump's image in his ads. What does that do for or maybe against David McCormick, the Republican candidate in that race?
Well, look, Bob Casey is also doing this because he's fashioned himself as a moderate, as a centrist throughout his political career, but he has been in lockstep with the unabashedly liberal Biden-Harris agenda. He, in fact, has voted with them not 80% of the time, not 90% of the time, but 98% of the time.
That's
Bob
insane.
Casey has been with Biden-Harris. So he needs to do something to pretend that he is a little closer to the middle. And that something is putting Donald Trump in his ads, which, look, he's now put a target on him. Donald Trump is going to take note. The Trump campaign already has. They've been blasting out emails about these particular ads. And you can bet that Trump is going to put his sights on Bob Casey and the others. It's going to backfire on them.
The Senate is, very much up for grabs, but Republicans are feeling that they have a pretty good chance to make, to get control of the Senate. Are there other states in which Democrat candidates are tying themselves to Donald Trump or trying to?
Yeah, so Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, as I said, Sherrod Brown in Ohio, Alyssa Slotkin, who's a member of Congress, a House member right now in Michigan, is the Democrat nominee. She's doing it as well. And, the most dangerous thing a political prognosticator can do is get ahead of themselves. And in this case, that's getting ahead of polls, because the polls of today are not necessarily the results of tomorrow.
Amen to
Anything can happen.
Please, guys, please go vote. I just got my ID with my updated address. I will be going to vote early, either tomorrow or Tuesday. I know I got some I will be voting this week for sure, early.
This is something we need to pay attention to, that Democrats are trying to tie themselves to Donald Trump. And keep in mind, too, this is not just about the majority in the Senate, which Republicans have a very, very high probability of capturing. But this could also determine which members win and end up in the caucus, could determine who replaces Mitch McConnell as majority leader. You get more Republican senators to win. That's a larger voting pool of senators in the caucus. And these folks who were not necessarily expected to win could be the decision makers in that race.
All right, Pete Seat, Republican strategist.
Bob Casey. I wasn't too familiar with him coming up on to this video, but I had to educate myself. And for those who may not be familiar, we the ones who don't really know politics. We try to learn politics, you know what I mean? That's what we at. So Bob Casey Jr., Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, he had a relationship with Donald Trump's presidency and policies that can be described as complex. They also said balancing opposition with occasional alignment on specific issues, particularly trade. Now, it says Casey has also been critical of Trump, particularly in the realm of tax policy, voting against the Republican tax cut package in 2017. His record shows opposition to many of Trump's broader policy directions, especially in areas like healthcare, environmental protection, and social issues. But despite frequent opposition to Trump's policies, Casey has occasionally supported bipartisan efforts and legislation that Trump has also advocated for, like infrastructure spending or aspects of national security not strictly aligned with the party lines. Okay. So in context of the 2024 election, Casey's endorsement by the Philadelphia Inquirer highlighted his deep ties to Pennsylvania and his ability to work across the aisle, and implicably criticizing his Republican opponent, Dave McCormick, for lacking such ties. The narrative suggests Casey's strategy of positioning himself as someone who can stand up to Trump when necessary, but also work with him for Pennsylvania's benefit. So, in that sense, his relationship with Trump as it relates to his political strategy and actions, showcasing nuanced approach. All right, cool. He believes he's critical when he disagrees, and pragmatic in supporting policies he believes in benefit Pennsylvania, even if they stem from Trump's presidency. Okay, cool. So we get, I got to educate myself on who these people are. I'm hearing names and all this type of stuff. But yeah, it says that was AI educating me on Grok, by the way. Twitter's AI educating me on who he was. But now we're gonna read some comments under the video. It says, as a PA resident, Bob Casey is just a professional politician. Vote him out. Vote red. Someone says, why can't a convicted felon run for president, but all felons get stripped of their voting rights? That's messed up. Come on, he's not a convicted felon. You guys are annoying. Tell me you're afraid you're going to lose your job as a Democrat politician and soft-siding, neutral, and favorable to Trump because you believe Trump will win, and the people are ready to clean out the Democratic Party. Now, you're on the same page that I'm on. That's really why I'm like, okay, I don't know much about him. I can't tell you if he wishy-washy, but I do know that everybody knows that Kamala is tanking, and Donald Trump is making more and more sense even to those whom are in the middle, some even Democrat. We have Democrats literally saying they're voting for Trump. It's a whole thing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know him. So, but just going off of that play alone, I'll just say I don't trust him. I'm gonna be skeptical. It's, that kind of stupidity doesn't just go away all of a sudden.